Welcome back, YouTube, to another episode of 10 with Travis, where we take just 10 minutes a day to dive deep into the Word so you can be more equipped today than you were yesterday. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about Jacob. We're going to talk a little bit more about him moving into his adulthood because last episode we talked about Jacob and Isaac and how they both weren't the firstborn, but they did end up getting what you would consider the firstborn rights. So go ahead and check that video out if you haven't seen that. But today we're just moving down the lineage. So we started with Abraham, then we went to Isaac, now we're at Jacob, and then next episode we're going to go right into Joseph. So that's going down the lineage as well. So like I said, in this video we're going to be talking about Jacob as he goes into adulthood, and it's just going to be a little bit of a revelation for us on how God just will work everything for our favor, that we don't necessarily have to worry how we feel like the things are stacked against us, but God is the one that's in control and he will be able to work things for our favor. And that's a theme we're going to see next episode as well when we do talk about Joseph. So there will be some similarities between Jacob and Joseph. So as you watch this video, and then when the next episode comes out, when you watch that, see if you can pull on some of those similarities between the two father-son combination. So when Jacob got older, he actually kind of left the land and went and worked for a relative named Laban. So he worked for 7 years for Laban with agreement that he would be able to marry one of Laban's daughters, Rebekah. So he worked the 7 years, and then when it came time to give him Rebekah, he actually went back on his agreement and said, here, you can have my oldest daughter, Leah. So that is generally just how the things worked back in those days, as it was, you could say, not right for the younger daughter to marry before an older daughter or the oldest daughter. So Laban said, nope, here you go, you can have Leah. So Jacob did have Leah as his wife, but then agreed to work another 7 years for Rebekah. So that would be 14 total years to have two wives. So as we talked about, the Bible is descriptive and prescriptive. So this isn't, saying that it's okay to have more than one wife. It was just describing what did happen in that time. So like I said, first 7 years, then he got Leah. Second 7 years, then he got Rachel. So as he kind of worked throughout those 14 years, and then some years after that, we see that God was with Jacob and he had a lot of success. And Laban also knew that, and that caused Laban to kind of want to keep him around, which is obviously something that is beneficial for Jacob. But then when it kind of came time for him to leave, there was a little bit of a rift in there. But here's what Genesis 31, 4 through 9 says, which is what we're going to kind of mainly talk about on this episode, where we talked about God can turn everything around, even when it's kind of silly or seems silly. He'll turn it around to make it so that you are blessed and prosperous. So it says, so Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah into the field where his flock was, and said to them, I see that your father does not regard me with favor as he did before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength. Yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. Do we ever feel like that with people, that we're just doing everything we can to serve them, but they keep changing the situation? They keep changing, what they're supposed to give you in return. Again, I think a lot of us can relate to Jacob here. So picking back up, it says, but God did not permit him to harm me. If he said, so again, he's saying, if Laban said, the spotted shall be your wages, then all the flock bore spotted. And if he said, the striped shall be your wages, then all the flock bore stripes. Thus God has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. So the beauty of it here is, no matter how much man was trying to cheat Jacob, God was above and beyond that. So anytime Laban said, hey, out of this flock, whatever is born with spots, which obviously wasn't generally good and didn't probably happen very often, You get all the spotted ones. I'll keep all of the non-spotted ones, with no blemishes or anything. Well, the flock would be born and it would be all spotted. Then the next time he'd say, okay, well, stripes. He tried stripes, came out, all of them were striped. So we have to be able to hold on to this. And that's our did you know? It's just a live example where it makes no sense why they would all be striped, they would all be spotted, other than that's what God wanted. That's what God caused to happen. So in our own lives, when people try to treat us unfairly or we feel like we're being treated unfairly, we just need to continue to stay course. We just need to continue to follow God, continue to live through his direction, and God is above any human that may be standing in your way or making it hard for you in your way. So as we kind of develop that, we have to learn to hear from the Holy Spirit on, what may be our direction. Maybe it's to move in this direction. Maybe it's to stay put, continue to serve. So if you have instances where you may need some help with, please feel free to reach out to us. Our email is below. You can also leave comments on there. So that's going to be kind of all we really talk about with Jacob. Like I said, there's a big story to Jacob, so go ahead and read that in Genesis as well. It's kind of in Genesis 25 to 35 or so. So tomorrow, or next episode, like I said, we will move into Joseph, who is one of Jacob's sons. So a quick did you know was that Jacob had 12 sons, and Joseph was one of them. But God did end up changing Jacob's name to Israel, and Israel had 12 sons, and that's where we get the 12 tribes from there. So whenever you hear about the 12 tribes in the Bible, that's directly related to Jacob or Israel, same person. It's directly related to his lineage and his sons. So that does it for today. If this episode has blessed you, please share it with someone, like it, try to get it out there so we can continue to reach more people. Thank you all for watching this episode. Be sure to check us out next episode when we talk about a couple of did you knows from Joseph. I hope you learned something today. Feel free to comment or send questions, and we will see you in the next episode of 10 with Travis.